This area for me, it's when I'm running at the slower paces. So probably when I'm just going from steady pace up to marathon pace, this is where I'm hitting here, and I do get this crazy. So just a couple runs done and dusted in this shoe. Now this is the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3, and these are my first impressions. But before we get into it, and if you guys haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Quick specs, so this one is a neutral road racing shoe, and Mizuno say this one is suitable for your 10K up to your marathon races. Now coming in at $360 here in Australia, $250 you're gonna pay in the US. Now in the weight, not too bad here, so 218 grams or 7.7 ounces. Now in the stack heights, I know Mizuno have got some pretty cool things going on here with their geometry, and they're doing some sneaky tactics here of where they measure their stack heights because of the way they shape their geometry. But this one is, believe it or not, under the legal limit because they measure it in certain spots. So 40 millimeters in the rear, 36 in the front. Now that's a 4 millimeter drop, but I have read somewhere that this shoe actually measures, so in the meaty part of the midsole, measures at about 61 millimeters. So that's absolutely crazy. And in your upper, so the material they're using here is an engineered mesh. Now, very light, very breathable on the foot. We've got a very flimsy heel counter at the back, and the heel collar has been updated from the previous version, and they've got a little bit more padding in this version as well. Still not a lot of padding because it is a race shoe. Now, what is to note is just the angle that this comes back in. Once your heel sits right back on the shoe, just that sharp angle. That the heel collar does actually press on the bottom of my Achilles, and I have had some irritation there, so not good there for me. We've got a really thin tongue, so no padding at all, and the tongue is not gusseted. Lacing system pretty standard, so I don't think it's changed too much from previous versions. Haven't had no issues with the laces coming undone. I've had no issues with the lockdown, but as I said, as I mentioned before, I've got irritation of this part of the shoe angling in so far and giving me irritation on the bottom of my Achilles. In the fit, I'm going to say it is true to size in the length, but it's a performance fit, so it's quite narrow. It's going to hug most of the foot as well. And what I'll go into later as well, because this shoe has, it's so aggressive, you aggressively tip forward a lot, and it wants to hold your foot in this position. It's got a tendency to let your foot slide down in the shoe, and your toes are going to butt up against the end of the shoe. So just be wary about that one as well. Build quality, pretty good. And stepping comfort, it's okay, but yeah, very, very weird. And in the outsole, so again, the Mizuno here are using their G3 outsole. So this G3 has got all these nice little tiny aggressive lugs all over the shoe. And as you can see by the rubber coverage there, it's the entirety of the shoe. We have got a huge cutout or a crevice through the heel there, as you can see, an exposed wave plate. But overall, this compound, so this rubber compound, I'm not too sure if it's the exact same one as they've used in the previous models, because this one, believe it or not, got a little skatey on some greasy surfaces. So especially on a boardwalk, it turned into an ice skate. And I can't remember if the other two versions did that. But yeah, in the dry, obviously very tacky, very sticky, but yeah, in the wet, a little bit sketchy. Durability wise, again, it's way too early to tell, but obviously I'm going to show most of my wear here where the chunkiest part of the midsole is, because I'm going to stripe on this part most of the time. As I said, too early to tell. And midsole, so brand new foam, Mizuno Energy XP. Now this is a nitrogen infused supercritical foam, so I'm not too sure why they wanted to upgrade the foam in this year's model, because I thought the other foam they used in the previous models was amazing. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. It was one of the best super foams on the market, but yep, they've nitrogen infused this one. So it's definitely going to make it more resilient, I can tell you that. Now, geometry wise, this thing is wacky. It's very, very aggressive. Probably the most aggressive lean forward type rocker geometry that I've ever felt in a shoe. So you literally feel like you are on high heels and you are just leaning forward. So this, it's just got this huge part of the midsole here. Yeah, and it's a really steep lean forward just when you're standing around in the shoe. But as you can see, super crazy heel bevel there. And then what it is, it's got this really flat plane on the bottom, which they did use in the previous model, and then it's just got this rocket shape up to the toe. So yeah, wacky geometry there. So that's their smooth speed assist. It is similar to the model on the, it's certainly the same geometry as the 2, but there's certainly different midsole foam in it to make it feel different. And the geometry is way different from the Wave Rebellion Pro 1. Now, within the foam here, they have got their wave plate. So this is a carbon-infused wave plate. Now, rigidity-wise, oh, wow, this is a super stiff shoe. Wow, I can't bend that at all. So, yeah, super rigid shoe. And this wave plate that they're using here, so it has been widened just to add a little bit more stability to the ride. And in the ride, so what I will say, it has got some crazy bounce, but it's just in one part of the shoe for me, and that is towards the rear here. So where this big chunky part of that midsole foam is, this area for me, it's when I'm running at the slower paces. So probably when I'm just going from steady pace up to marathon pace, this is where I'm hitting here, and I do get this crazy amount of bounce. But with that bounce, I don't feel that's much smooth in the shoe, because you compress this part here, and as you roll through, you hit the flat plane on the shoe, and I feel like that it feels a bit clunky going from this super crazy bounce to a flat plane, and then onto a little bit of toe spring, a little bit of rocker here at the front. So it feels quite weird, and as I said, I'm getting the most bounce and the most explosiveness out of this shoe at the slower paces. So going, yeah, just around that marathon pace. When I want to pick up the pace, so when I want to start running faster, I'm actually missing this sweet spot of the shoe, and I'm landing more towards the midfoot, and I'm hitting this flat plane. And I don't feel like I'm getting the most out of the shoe. And it just feels like pretty much just like a normal racing flat, because I'm just hitting so flat on. So, yeah, and then I'm just getting that little bit of a rocket sensation. So far, yeah, it's not really working for me. Yeah, I understand, yeah, it has got crazy bounce, but I don't think it's working for my foot strike. Yeah, but this foam though, it is crazy bouncy, crazy responsive. Is it more stable than the previous version? I haven't really noticed if it's any more stable. It is slightly firmer, but as I said, the bounce is certainly a lot more explosive. The pitch in it is so aggressive though, so when you're running in this shoe, you are just forcing, for me it feels like all my weight is just getting forced down into the forefoot of my shoe, and it's not that comfortable to run in for a long time. So yeah, just having a few issues with the ride of this shoe, but overall I can see some good parts of it, but all in all, yeah, it's just far too aggressive for me. And because it's so aggressive, so pitch forward, you would think you would want to get the bounce from this part of the shoe, or say from the middle of the shoe, or where I want to hit. But yeah, it just seems a little unbalanced. Most of the pop is coming through the rear, but it's leaning me forward so much forward that I think it's just, yeah, it's just a bit too clunky for me. So what I'm liking in this shoe so far is actually the new midsole foam compound. So I really appreciate this Mizuno Energy XP. It's got some real potential, some real explosive bounce. And what I'm still figuring out is the geometry of the shoe. It is just so aggressive, so aggressively pitched, but it feels like that is not where the sweet spot of the shoe is. And dislikes is certainly the irritation that I'm getting around the heel collar here. It's just too high, and it just angles in way too far, and it really makes that padding, internal padding there, ineffective. Also, the weight distribution of the pitch of the shoe. So it's far too aggressive. And just when I run in this shoe, all that weight, as I said, it just comes through the front of the shoe. The weight distribution is off for me and doesn't really agree with me. Really uncomfortable to run for a long time in. And just wrapping up my first impressions here. So unfortunately, I think this one is going to the relegation list, which is a huge shame, because I absolutely love the Wave Rebellion Pro 1. It was number 1 on my leaderboard for a long, long time. The Wave Rebellion 2 was good as well, but not as good as the 1. I just think, yeah, this one is just too aggressively pitched. And just the geometry just doesn't work for my foot strike. As I said, the feels to me, the sweet spot for my, the way I strike the ground, or the sweet spot for this shoe for me is back here. But when I start running fast and when I want to run efficient in my running shoes, I start trying to hit through the midfoot, and that's where I'm not getting much out of the shoe. It just feels like a really high-pitched shoe that doesn't give me much back when I'm not hitting this sweet spot here. And yeah, and just that weight distribution, it's just a little bit too aggressively pitched. It's just, yeah, too much force going through the front of my foot, which I'm not really enjoying. Big shame, but I'm not going to say it's not going to work for everyone. What I am looking forward to is the low version of this. So the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 Low. So it's not so aggressively pitched, and it's got this same foam, because this foam really has got some amazing properties. So yeah, I'm very keen to try that one out with not so an aggressive pitch, and I reckon that shoe will certainly be a winner for me. But anyway, guys, that is it. They're my first impressions. Anything you've got, any questions you've got regarding this shoe, how does it compare to anything else at this stage, just drop it in the comments. Thanks for watching. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you next time.